1, and we are set. Hey friends, this is Jenny Wren of Gritty Birds Podcasting, and today is our Friday Q&A, something that I'm adding in a new little bit. So right here, I'm gonna go ahead and add that little bottom. So it's the Friday Q&A. And the way that this is going to work is, at least for the next couple weeks, I'm going to be doing this both live to Gritty Birds Podcasting, to our YouTube, and here to my main page. And then it's going to be going to the Gritty Birds community page, which is for those of you who are in the academy and who've signed up for any of my workshops. So I get many questions every single week from different podcasters. And so I'm going to go ahead and, of course, if you have questions while you're here, feel free to go ahead and ask them down here. I'd love to have you guys here. Just say hi. So go ahead and say hi in the comments if you'd like. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with a couple of the questions. First of all, I kind of wanted to do a little bit of business. Today is the last day of the Podcasters Kit promotion. And so that's going to be the end of this like really inexpensive deal. And I'll tell you guys more about that a little bit later. And the workshop that it's happening right now is the Ultimate Vocal Mastery Workshop. Let's get going. So the first question that I got this week was from somebody who wanted to attend the workshop, and they wanted to know, what if I can't attend live? And that's a really very solid question, because this one is a live workshop and it's being offered through the deal. It's a little bit different. So I did this last year as well. So we'll be filming the workshops themselves, and then I will be making the videos available to those of you who have signed up for the workshop. So if you've signed up for the workshop, you will have access to those videos in perpetuity. So it's as simple as being able to check them out post. This is a class that will work out best if you're there or taking part during the time. So a nice way that you could be doing it if you're like just really slammed and want to still take part but can't be there live, especially for your time zone, etc., is you could access those videos in post, attend the Q&As on Fridays to ask any questions, but you can still access that Dropbox where you're sending your audio up into it, where I can go ahead and you can take a part in the assignments and still be in communication with me with no problem during that 3-week period. At the end of that 3-week period, that will be the part of it that will end, but you can still go ahead and check out the workshop videos and still take part in the Q&As. So if you're doing it on your own when you've taken a part in this piece, you're welcome to. And then I will be later on adding in just a module only course that's going to be happening. But right now, this is how I really am excited to get started on it. It's going to help me to have a lot of content for these videos and sort of see what, those of you who are taking the class are finding to be really helpful. It's a nice little way to test out the waters. So let's take a look. Any comments? No comments. Okay, let's head back here. All right, the next question that I had was a kind of controversial one, and it's that, does a podcast need to be a video? And lately, in the last year or so, that's been a question that's really, really changed a lot. I used to be very, very anti a podcast, like a YouTube channel being a podcast at all. Like, I don't consider this to be a podcast. I consider this to be a live stream. A podcast in the traditional sense had to do with your iPod, and so it was having that go straight to your pod and be able to have that, right? And you use a RSS aggregator and a host to be able to send that out. You can host yourself as well. There's a lot of ways to do it. And then a YouTube would then be one of those places, and video can be an element. In the last few years, from the time that I first was on a podcast to when I started my podcast to today, there are so many more people that know that even the word podcast exists. Like, it used to be that nobody even knew that it exists, and now it's everywhere, right? And so many people are having them that it's no longer a, like, what is that, to put it bluntly. So for example, I went to see my godparents when they were asking me, 5 years ago, what is a podcast? And today, hey, this is my dog. Say hi. She followed me in here. So before, they would ask me, what is a podcast? And now they say, what is a podcast producer? Or what is my podcast? Where that's completely different conversation that people ask me. You can have video for podcasts, but if you just upload to YouTube, you won't be accessing all those places that your podcast stream can go to. So I still recommend if you are doing video, and even if you're doing a live and then reposting that podcast, still going ahead and getting a host and setting up that RSS feed. But you don't have to have video. In fact, if you're recording live, you're going to get a lower quality of audio, and there still aren't really great places for you to have both good video and good sound on the internet at this point. And I'm sure that's going to change as every year there's new additions to what's happening in the industry. But at this point, that's still the case. All right. Hey, Ryan. All right. Okay, the question here is, I'm going to show this. Tell me whether my handy dandy Zoom H4n is better than my Presonus iTWO. That's a good question. I have not used a Presonus. I guess I originally did use a Presonus like years and years ago, a little M audio. I use an M audio interface, and then I have a Focusrite at home, and then I use a Babyface Pro. Today we're using my lavalier mic because I get interference when I'm live with my Babyface Pro right now. And I would say I like the Zoom H4n for when I'm traveling. It's a really solid device. I love the sound on that device for recording with two mics. I think it's super solid. The two things that I recommend are like that simple like 2i2 of any of those brands, or an H4n for any of my starting clients, even more than a USB mic, because you've got a lot more flexibility. I think they're going to be pretty similar to the class. So you can go ahead and do some A/B tests. The one benefit that I like for the Presonus is if you're connecting straight to your computer, I think it has a much better workflow if you're always connecting via that than the H4n does. All right, Krista, I hope that answers your question. All right, moving on to Krista Stoilo. I apologize if I'm butchering your name. All right, perfect. I've added my questions to the event's Facebook post. Write it here because I'm not seeing it in the Facebook post because I don't have Facebook open, and it only is pulling from right here. Sometimes it doesn't show destinations to every single comment. Usually they should have the comments on the first one, but I'm both streaming to my personal profile as well as the Gritty Birds podcasting profile. So my guess is that it's delayed. So if you're getting lost on it, go ahead and add it here. Let me find it. Okay, I found Chris's question. Oh, I'm trying to. Oh, having issues. Okay, we're getting there. Just a second. Audio leveling. Oh, it's not popping up. Having bad internet. Just a second. All right. I'll find that question from Krista since I don't have any other questions. All right. Still not loading. Yeah, Krista, if you can go ahead and post that again, that'd be really helpful because I am having issues here and I'd love to be able to get your feedback on this. Okay, you getting there? Unless you took it down. Okay. All right, anything? Going ahead, still having, I think it's because I'm live that I'm having trouble with that. So let's see here. Oh, perfect. Here's her question. It's a long one. All right. What do I need to do if there's a big difference between speakers that are in one track? One is too loud and the other too soft. I already tried magic levels in Hindi, which is Hindenburg for those of you that don't know, and auto level, but it didn't make much of a difference. Then I normalized the audio to -4, and I think that worked well so far. That brought the host up and the guest down. Thoughts? All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Krista, for doing that. All right, so that's a long one. I'm going to read this again. So I'm going to kind of go here. I do like magic levels in Hindi, but there are some things that it's not perfect for. And the auto level can take you only so far. And actually, you don't really need to do too much with normalization. Like that final piece is going to do it. The big thing about normalization is that it's going to give you almost a false sense of things being fixed because it's really just lowering how you're listening to it. And that can be a challenge. So one of the issues that I have with Hindi is that I don't love the way it has for like audio repair kind of pieces. And that's one of the reasons that I actually do my audio repair in Audition. So I do understand, like, the big thing about Audition is they have something in there that lets you actually, that's like a voice leveler. And one of the things that happens when you go into that voice leveler, and this is where it's important with the magic levels and why this is key, is that when you go in there, it might boost a certain piece that kind of like has different amounts. And I really hope that you in magic levels you also can adjust how much you have the magic level. So one thing that happens when you're auto leveling the vocals is you might notice that all of a sudden the breaths in one of your guests is really, really high, or that the one person is actually not sounding quieter or louder, and that is because when it's using a cheap mic or is going through like not a very good sound, it'll often actually lower that level when the sound of that needs to feel more present. So it can be like it's not thinking properly, which can be really, really frustrating, because if you look at it, you're like, that file's louder, but it's actually not. It needs to be pushed up, and the program isn't quite catching it because it's catching all these other artifacts that are in there. So I would recommend, if you can, try to do that. That's one of the big reasons that I really push for multi-track. It's for when you have issues like this, because in those cases you can just clean the audio in that track. And if you don't want to pay for something, a really good sound remover is in Audacity. So like if you're like, I definitely don't want to spend $20 a month on Audition, and I just don't want to mess with that, and I like the basic tools that I have for cleanup in Hindi, that would be like the case for having those separate tracks. So I would say play around with the amount that you can do in auto level, and then from there, instead of normalizing it, see if you can do some kind of like sound removal cleanup. And what you can do for that is using Audacity if you don't want to pay for it. And if there's multiple ways that you can do it in Audition, and I'm going to show you guys, that's a little bit more of a complicated question because there's about 4 or 5 different ways. And if you want to do it without buying RX or buying Audition, which are both costs up, then Audacity is going to be your go-to. And in that case, after you've done that magic level and export as wave, you could put that into Audacity and then take out the sound cleanup, because then it'll sort of remove some of those weird artifacts that come up. The big thing you want to make sure is that you're not pushing up so much that one person is gulping, right? And that gulping really is a very, very common thing that you're seeing in sound leveling. You can sometimes do the sound removal a little bit before, after. You don't want it to sound too taken away, but that's going to help a little bit. So I will be making videos on those for my 10-minute YouTube that goes a little bit deeper. But I would go ahead and tweak your Hindi and then use Audacity for some sound removal over the normalization so that you're not getting a false sense of security. And I hope that was helpful. So I don't see any, let me see, any other questions today? All right, I think that's a good start. Next week, I'll be back. I won't be in Central Time. I will be back in Portland. So I will be doing this again at 11 a.m., but PST next week. So I will go ahead, and if you're on my mailing list, I'll sign it up. Oh, that reminds me, I guess I should actually go back to the promotion today. So today is the last day of the deal. I really am excited. I've had quite a few people who took advantage of the coaching, like the consult deal. So that was a special thing for my network, so that if you guys are a part of it, you can get a little something special to that. I don't get much money from the Podcasters Kit. It's really a great way to meet new folks in my networks. And it was a perfect way for me to launch the Academy, which is really a private Facebook group. And it really feeds back into the courses. So if you're taking this first course, I am eventually going to figure out a way to open it up. But first, it's going to be just to people who sign up for that course. And today, it is still just to people who sign up through the Podcasters Kit. You don't have to go through my affiliate, but if you do, you're giving a little throwback to me. You're supporting me like immediately. And then I'll also be able to get to know you a little bit personally. And I'm excited about that. It's even more than just like giving you something free. I just want to meet you. So go ahead, and that link, I'm going to go ahead and put in the comments. So, oh, yay. So that's exciting. For anyone who has that, Dan's going to get me the info, so I'm putting this in my comments, and I'll add it to the other pages where it's not on. So Dan has mentioned that he will get me all the people who are in the who signed up for the affiliate, but it's going to take a second, so I'll get into that next week. I'm heading right after this. I'm tearing down the studio. It's been really awesome being here in this RV studio, and it makes me stoked to be able to come back to Iowa more and know that I can work from home. Like, actually, I've got my dog sitting here. So that's a nice benefit. Then the other big piece is that I'm I'm heading home tomorrow. I'll be flying from Minnesota. And so on Monday, I will be sending an email to anyone who signed up for the course on that Eventbrite. And then I will be posting tomorrow the new link. It'll be $75 after today for the course. And I'm excited about it. We've got a nice group of people who are in it. And I'll be sending info on Monday for anyone else who needs it. But for today, I think we're good. Maggie and I say bye. Logging out from the studio here in Fort Dodge, Iowa, till next year when I'm back. And take care, everyone, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.